Where does yesterday's future, which is already here, meet today's future, which is about to happen, and tomorrow's future, which could be just minutes away? Welcome to Technology Revolution, the future of now. Where host Bonnie D. Graham asks savvy futurists for their predictions about the tech-driven trends that are shaping our future right now. Here's your host, who will take us into the future of now, Bonnie D. Graham.
Welcome times 10. Happy to be here. We are live streaming on Facebook on the Tech Rev page. So happy to be here. This is episode number 2 of our annual Crystal Ball predictions. We're going to be talking about finance, the office of the CFO, everything to do with financial risk, all kinds of interesting things. I have 10. I'm going to say they're experts, they're specialists, they're thought leaders with me today. But I'm going to open the show with a couple of buzz quotes. You all know I love to have buzz quotes, and I found 2 very interesting ones from movies. I don't usually do that in the opening. So buzz number 1, here's a quote from Gusteau, played by Brad Garrett in Ratatouille, a 2007 computer animated comedy. Here we go. If you focus on what you left behind, you will never see what lies ahead. Okay, so much for the rat speaking. And here's a quote from Keanu Reeves, who played Klaatu. Okay, in The Day the Earth Stood Still, a 2008 sci-fi drama film. Your problem is not technology. The problem is you. You lack the will to change. Oh, Bonnie, how did you find these quotes? It wasn't easy, let me tell you. So to our listeners, if you're hoping to gaze into a crystal ball to see what 2021 holds for your company, come on, we all wish we could. What holds for your company, your industry, your career, the world, your community, your family. What a year 2020 has been. We've got almost the next best thing. Today is December 9th. We're here live. And I have 10 thought leaders with me who are going to help us predict the future of our focus topic this week, finance and the office of the CFO. Now, the reason we're doing this is because I have invited some very special people who have been panelists on our special radio series, Changing the Game with Financial Excellence, or Financial Excellence with Game Changers, during the calendar year 2020. We've got 2 of the sponsors here on our panel. Our special will continue next week on December 16th. Yes, edging right up against the holiday. We did the first one last week, and we'll continue it in January. We're going to talk about technology, strategies, and trends that will help you, your company, your team, your industry leapfrog ahead of the competition, whatever's left of the competition, I should say, in 2021 and beyond. So settle back, pour a cup of Joe, a cup of Earl. If you've got any early Dom open, you know what I'm talking about. Pour it and sit back. This is our Crystal Ball Predictions Special Part 2 live. So let me go around the table. Let me just quickly tell you who's on the show with me today. We have Birgit Starmans, one of the sponsors of our Financial Excellence series, which, by the way, is heading into its 10th season with me next year. We're so thrilled. Birgit is the global head of the Office of the CFO, Center of Excellence, COE, Thought Leadership, Strategy, and Programs for Finance and Risk at SAP. Birgit, that is the longest title I have ever heard, and I used to work at SAP, and I know. Rob Kugel is here. Rob is Senior VP at Ventana Research. Welcome, Rob. Molly Boyle is here, Director of Solutions Marketing at Blackline. Brian Kalish is here, Principal at Kalish Consulting, and he's an EIR. That's an expert in residence. I like that. At eCapital Advisors. Daniel Satani is here, Data Scientist. Oh, I like that. And Solution Architect at TrueQuad. We are sorry Jeff Hattendorf couldn't join us today, co-founder of Macrospect and COO. He's under the weather, but Jeff, we're sending you love and good wishes. J.S. Eric is here with us, Director of Data Science and Artificial Intelligence for TrueQuad. We've got quite a representation from TrueQuad. Haresh Chaya is here, Director of Treasury and Working Capital Solutions at SAP. We've got Larissa Melnichuk. She set up the International FP&A Board back in 2013, and she's the founder and CEO of the FP&A Trends Group. We have Kevin Mccollum, who is wiggling his finger at us. Kevin is the Global VP of SAP RCS, and we have another sponsor of the series, Pras Chatterjee, who's a frequent guest all year long. Pras is Senior Director of Product Marketing for Planning and Analysis at SAP. What a brain trust we have with us today. Let's get the party started. We're going to be each of you, let's say 3.5 minutes, not clocking, but you know how to behave. You've been on my shows before. Let's start off with Birgit Starmans. Birgit, one of our sponsors. Birgit, so happy you're here. Birgit, kick this off. What do you predict? Go ahead.
All right, I have a couple of predictions, and I think the first prediction is going to be a statement of the obvious. We're not going to be going back to the way things were. And I'm going to multi-source some research, but there have been various studies. And I would say, especially when it comes to finance and risk teams, about 3/4 are not going to be going back to work in an office full time. Now, that could be any kind of combination to continuing to work full time, to just working from home part-time. But I would say nobody's really going to go back to full-time. And the nice thing about that is that we realized we can do it, because we've really done some things, whether it's closing the books, whether it's managing remote access to our systems. We've really done things that we didn't think that we could do remotely. And especially with finance in the past, they've been a bit of a laggard in embracing new technology, and they've really been more on the forefront. So we're seeing some of those studies come out with that as well. The second prediction is, I hate to revamp the word usability, but things have to be more consumer grade usable. For us to be able to work from home, I like to say I do software, not hardware. So, I mean, for me to have to connect hardware out, I usually have to have somebody out. So if I need something done, it needs to be really, really easy to do. And I think the same is true of technology. And we're really seeing more of business kind of software becoming more usable. And a large part that is due to technology, to having more intelligent technology, looking more at artificial intelligence, looking at machine learning to see the way that we work, not just technology because technology is cool, but because technology is a tool that we're using to make things easier. And the third prediction I have is actually dealing with business models. I think right now, a lot of companies had to reinvent the way that they do things. And for a manufacturer, they're going to continue to manufacture, but in a lot of cases, they had to revamp their manufacturing facilities to produce personal protective equipment, PPEs. So they were able to take some of their normal things that they produce and actually revamp their production lines. We're seeing more companies offer services where they might not have offered services before. Previously, they would sell something, kind of kick it over the fence and say, here. But now they're offering services to help you not just install it, but ongoing services. And as part of that, we're seeing more subscription pricing. And I'll give you kind of a consumer grade example real quick. Even on Amazon, as you order things, they now allow you to order things in a subscription and it costs less. Hey, you ordered this now, order it again in a month. Oh no, we'll do that for you. And you'll save money. So you'll have something constantly being sent to your home. And I would say there are a lot of services that are out there now, instead of just initial services, really ongoing maintenance services. So we're going to see a lot of new business models that I think are going to maintain going into the future as well. So those are my top 3 predictions, Bonnie.
Thank you, Birgit. And I will tell you that Alexa now gives me a verbal reminder, and I will admit this. She says, are you ready to order another half gallon of You Bet chocolate syrup? It's been a while. And she keeps me honest. And I keep saying, no, I've slowed down on the chocolate syrup, Alexa. I'm not ready. And I'm resisting. I didn't know she could reorder it for me. So that's interesting. And with cosmetics, Birgit, on Amazon, I ordered lipstick or something the other day. They automatically want to set up that subscription model. You're absolutely right. And for discontinued lipstick colors, ladies, it's a good idea to get the subscription, because I know. Anyway, thank you, Birgit. Great kickoff there. We are looking for Rob Kugel next. Rob, I'm going to put you on speaker view and let's hear what your predictions are. Go ahead.
Okay, Bonnie. 4 predictions. Number 1, everything's going to go back to normal at some point in 2021, except for what won't, and that'll be a lot. So what won't is the Office of Finance stepped on a banana peel this year, and against its will, it accelerated its digital transformation. So cloud first, for example, is now the majority preference versus 55% preferring on-premises just in 2019. The ability to do rapid forecasting and planning cycles is a priority. Automating and virtualizing the close are priorities to support continuity and shorten the process. So we've seen companies using software to overhaul these processes. And anything that can be performed in a virtual way will be done virtually. Second one, if we go to AI, we've been talking about AI using machine learning for the Office of Finance for a few years now. But it's coming of age, I think, in a very real way in 2021. Not the robots are taking over the department AI, but a lot of little things that in total add up to a lot of efficiency and much greater effectiveness. So embedded AI is going to be increasingly available in ERP systems to do supervisory work, to cut down on errors and manage processes. It's already in use in doing things like invoice matching and receivables reconciliations and other seriously boring things that people shouldn't have to do. It's going to be more in use in creating predictive analytics and some prescriptive analytics in business planning and forecasting tools. Nothing really whiz bang, but substantially improving the quality of work that's performed, reducing errors, cutting the time required to perform tasks, just making things easier and better for the staff. Number 3, the annual audit. Now, this is really boring, but we're going to go from doing remote external audits to what I call the virtual audit. So companies make their systems available on a restricted and read-only basis to their external auditor. And this can substantially reduce the provided by client work that just it takes up too much time. It'll shorten the on-site time by the auditor, and that is all going to cut costs and improve productivity. For some companies, they may even be able to cut their audit costs if they're really out of line today. Number 4, taxes. And I know this is really obscure, but it's important. In the U.S., the tax reform giveth and it taketh away. So, a couple of years ago, rates were reduced, but a lot of benefits, especially for multinationals, were taken away. Corporate tax rates are now heading up, regardless. So companies need to be managing the process a lot more cleverly and clearly. So I think we're going to see a lot more companies using dedicated software for tax provision and for managing their transfer pricing. And maybe, I guess there's time for a 5th one. I see an end to something since March I've called SIPS, which is the Sheltering in Place Syndrome, which is what? It's Thursday, and all of that stuff. So I hope we're going to see an end to that in 2021. And back to you.
Oh, from your lips. Thank you, Rob. Something you said was so interesting to me. You said enhancing the quality of work. Now, quality and work, those two words don't go together for so many people in the workforce around the world, with repetitive jobs, with jobs where they push the same buttons or do the same thing or hit the same processes over and over. The idea of relieving the busy work, Rob, right? And going to something where you can say, we can help you upskill, we can help you reskill, we can help you find more satisfaction in your job. You're not going to lose it. You might actually learn to enjoy what you do because we'll give you new opportunities. That is juxtaposed against, AI is going to take over my job and it's all going to be robots, that fear factor. So that's another syndrome I think we've been hearing for several years is automation progress will take the human out of human jobs and make us all sit back and say what we're supposed to do. So I digress, but thank you, Rob. Enhancing the quality of work. I like that. And yes, SIPS, I read today in one of the times that there's a new syndrome. It's not just COVID. I'll only mention this briefly, not just COVID depression or fatigue. Now it's COVID anger is, why aren't they wearing a mask? Let's leave that one alone. No politics, Bonnie, you promised. Let's see who's next on our list. I'm going to my list. Number 3 today, Molly Boyle, sitting there smiling so wonderfully at Blackline. Molly, I'm putting you, I saw you watching Rob and he said, I'm going for a 5th. And you're saying, what? I need 5 predictions. Molly, I'm putting you on speaker view. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Bonnie. And Rob always has some great thoughts, so we'll allow him a 5th. I have a couple things here. You may have remembered from some of my previous appearances on your show, I always like to take the optimistic approach. I'm a glass half full kind of person. And I really think, this year, as challenging as it's been for controllership, which is the part of the office of the CFO that I work the most with, there is a lot to be optimistic about. I think Rob, alluded to a couple of them there, as did Birgit. I think there's really 3 areas where I predict that we're going to see substantial shifts in 2021. And some of this has already started. The first is what I'm going to call time. But what I mean by that is, this sense of urgency, right? Accounting and finance, particularly controllership, it has long been a very risk-averse, part of the organization. We're a cost center, we're a back office function as accounting professionals. And so we are very focused on that time of the month that we need to close the books, right? The way we've always done it. So many of us have gone through those quarter ends and those month ends where we have to respond and say, I'm sorry, I can't get to that right now. I can't support that. I'm closing the books. And I think, that process for a lot of companies has worked. Has it been ideal? No. Has it been modernized? Probably not. But for a lot of companies, it hasn't caused a catastrophic issue, and there hasn't been a compelling event until now that creates this sense of urgency. So what I think, we're going to see, and we're already seeing, is that this is that compelling event, right? I don't know about the rest of you, but I think the memes have been one of the best parts of this whole pandemic. And I saw a great one, a cartoon where there was a wrecking ball coming in, to the controller's office, basically. And this was like, the wrecking ball creating the urgency for digital transformation. And I absolutely think that's what this pandemic has been for us. It's been that compelling event that says the time is now. Maybe our process wasn't broken, but it failed to modernize, and now is the time to make the change. So I think that sense of urgency is going to be there. The next one, I'm going with the 3 T's today. The next one is around talent, and Rob touched on this a bit as well, but I think the way chief accounting officers and controllers are perceived by their organization is fundamentally changing. And I think this is an opportunity for those of us in the accounting profession to position ourselves not just as the folks who keep us out of trouble and who maintain compliance, but people who can provide valuable information that the business so desperately needs during this time. And I think, the more we can move ourselves and our staff in the accounting organization away from those activities that, we didn't go to school for, right? Those ticking and tying spreadsheet-based activities, the more we can move away from that and focus on, the value-added activities, and the more we can provide real-time data, the better off we're going to be. We're going to fundamentally change how we help our business. And then last is, from a technology perspective, I think, again, traditionally accounting has been very spreadsheet focused, very binder driven at one point in time. And while we've seen some shift away from that, as Rob suggested, we're going to see cloud solutions become a real enabler. The time to value, the implementation time, the fact that these solutions can be deployed while we're all working remotely and can be accessed from anywhere is going to be a huge trend that I think continues in 2021. So I think all of that is something to be excited about. We're seeing a lot of, the companies that we work with say that they were able to move forward without missing much of a beat because they had solutions in place. And those companies that didn't, like I said, that wrecking ball was their compelling event. So excited to see what happens next year.
Thank you very much, Molly. Interesting you said that. We've been talking for most of 2020 on my Game Changer series, including this one, Birgit and Pras, about companies that already dipped their toe in the water or dared to jump into the pool for digital transformation, for digitalization. Were able to pivot, to be nimble, to be agile, to refocus, to repurpose their business when the pandemic hit, when the world just went, and we had that virtual and real wrecking ball, right? And so you're absolutely right. I appreciate your focus on that. Thank you very much, Molly. Great predictions. Let's see who's next. Brian Kalish. How are you, Brian? I'm going to put you in speaker view and let's go with your predictions. Brian, you're up.
Well, I'm doing great. Welcome to everyone. It's great to see folks from around the world. I'm here from Washington, D.C. So when Bonnie invited me to meet, the question is, what is the new normal, hold in store for us? I mean, we're currently in the new normal, right? That's what we've been operating for 9 months. But at some point in 2021, and especially with all the good news that we've been getting on the vaccine, I think sooner rather than later, we're going to pivot to the new normal. But it's not going to be where we were, what I refer to as BC, before COVID. We're going to be in a different world than where we were. And we strongly have learned a lot from our clients in the last 9 months. So I would say, when I think of where the focus is going to be and where the predictions would be, I mean, for me, it's focused on data analytics. It's focused on forecasting, scenario planning, And then kind of my 4 and 5, RPA, robotic process automation, and 5 would be business communications. But just adding on to what the speakers have been talking about with automation, again, there's a lot of fear about it, but I would say really the way I look at it is that automation equals liberation. And when we pose it to folks is taking away the worst hour of their day to free them up to do higher IQ activities, there's a lot of buy-in. So I would say, this was my 4, but it's coming up to 1, given what folks have said, is that I'm an extreme believer in automation. I think, BC, within 5 years, everything that could be automated would be automated. And I think that's just accelerated. It's probably within 3. And for the reasons is, we've just understood that our processes have got to change. When I think about it, when we think about, to truly survive in the new normal, organizations need, data analytics that really, keep data in its, in its source state. We need to incorporate tools that are relationship aware. And then we have to be able just to perform against billions and billions of records. And Bonnie knows I've used this term before is, we're operating in a world of Bronto bytes. That's 10 to the 27th when we talk about data. And what I think is really incredible is, Gartner's come out recently and they say about 80% of all data is actually dark and 93% of unstructured data is dark. So there's a huge opportunity out there to leverage data. Organizations have to, advance in their analytics from just simply providing descriptive and diagnostic analytics to generating, really mission critical, predictive, prescriptive, and ultimately cognitive. We did a recent survey, and the practitioners we deal with, about 75% of them are still in that diagnostic and descriptive. So they want to move up the curve. And so there's tremendous opportunity for that. The frequency, I think people have talked about, the frequency of forecasting is definitely going to be greater in the new normal than where we were BC. Probably not at the cadence that we're at. Maybe we were doing something once a month BC. In some cases, it's every day. We probably don't have the people, process, and technology to handle that, so it'll ease off at some point. But we're going to have to leverage our people, leverage our tools, leverage our processes to get there. And then really organizations really have to run robust scenario planning platforms, really to maximize the opportunities that are out there and minimize the risk. Because we're just in this world that, it's highly uncertain. There's what we call a high level of VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So that's really where I think the focus is. It's getting our people, our people, process, technology, and cultures to operate in what I would consider will be the new normal.
Thank you, Brian Kalish. Interesting. You talk about new normal. People were talking about the new normal, the new abnormal, I think, in the beginning. What was 9 months ago? Hard to believe. We've been in this world for almost better part of a year. And I gave up on using the word normal at all, Brian, and I call it the new reality. I don't think I coined it, but it's the new reality. It is what it is, as the French say, c'est ça. That's what it is. So there you go. Thank you, Brian Kalish. Let's turn to Daniel Satani. Daniel, welcome. Nice to see you. I'm putting you on speaker view. We are ready for your predictions. Go ahead.
Excellent. So my first prediction for 2021 is that the entirety of the Earth's population is going to be glad to see 2020 go. And I think we finally have something we can all agree on, which is a good way to start. So now for something a little more on topic. And I'm going to start with a bit of a softball prediction, which is this, that the way that we talk about AI in the context of finance and in business in general is going to take a very exciting shift in the coming year. So up to now, and we've heard this a bit already with some of the past speakers, that most of the AI-driven innovation in finance has been focused on the back office. So making tedious tasks less so, and basically streamlining what we've already been doing for decades. In 2021, that focus on enhancing what already exists is going to start to give way to wholesale disruption to the way that we have traditionally done things. So specifically around strategy, how we formulate strategy, and how we make decisions. So why now? And the answer to that is 2020, right? With all of the chaos and uncertainty of 2020, early adopters, people who've already started their journeys have become increasingly interested in harnessing the power of AI for these higher level tasks. And unfortunately, that step up the value chain from transactional to the next level has been more of a leap than a step. So the framing of all the AI projects that I've ever been involved in has always been the same, which is it starts off with what we need is more accuracy for something. And the reason this leap to this next higher level task for AI is so hard is because knowledge employees aren't really known for blindly trusting technology just because it's supposed to be accurate. And there's a good reason for that. We don't want them to. So what do we need? Or what do they need more specifically? And they need to know how the technology works and to better understand not just what it's predicting, but why. And once we can get comfortable with that technology, they need to be able to play with it. So they can't just be fed predictions or answers. It needs to be something that they can interact with, they can talk to, that they can throw scenarios at and get responses back to be able to internalize, to make better decisions, to make better strategy. And so really what this comes down to is we don't need tech and they don't need tech. What they need is a collaborator. So this idea isn't new and it's found other homes outside of business in terms of this basic thought process. But what's really changed is that businesses are now willing to start looking into this, both because of all of the chaos, but also because they've had a few years to get used to AI and to understand the technology a little better. But here's the catch. No product exists for this yet. So this leads me to my biggest prediction, and that's that we're going to start seeing a new generation of solutions targeted for this exact use case in the latter half of 2021. And I further predict that this will grow into its own multi-billion-dollar market segment in the coming years. And I would say 2023 or 2024 will be the first time we see Gartner build a new magic quadrant around this space. So it goes without saying that the first company that innovates in this space is going to see massive growth, which is important for us to keep an eye on because I think it's a good investment opportunity. But I think more important, what we're going to start seeing is, or what we're really doing is we're starting to go down the path of evolving in a very fundamental way how businesses are going to work in the future. And to me, that's very exciting. So thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And something you said about collaborating and it's not technology brings me back to my buzz quote from The Day the Earth Stood Still, right? By Klaatu, the Keanu Reeves character. Your problem is not technology. The problem is you. You lack the will to change, or maybe the means to talk with people to make it all work while you're changing. Thank you very much, Daniel. Let's see who is next. We have J.S. Eric. J.S., I'm ready to put you on speaker view, and we're ready for your predictions. There you are. Go ahead.
Wonderful. I'd say following up Daniel's the toughest job here, but these have all been tough acts to follow. So I'm going to start off with a bit of a longer term prediction. Right, you have heard the stats from Birgit, right, around work from home, around changes in distribution channels, and I think we're going to look back in 15 years, and we're going to say 2021 was the birth of a new generation of Chobanis. And what I mean by that is companies that get to start with a lot less investment and a lot less capital, but because there are depressed assets, right? In the case of Chobani, a manufacturing plant, office space, commercial space, et cetera. Right, and we're going to see a number of companies take advantage of certain downturns, right, to build a company where they have a higher ownership stake and more control. And I'll cut a little bit of the background for my shorter term prediction just because you've heard it so eloquently from the rest of the team here. But I've always approached FP&A as the science of your business, right? This is not not surprising given that my background is in health research prior to getting into this space. Right, but you have these three steps. You want to understand, you want to use that understanding to make predictions, and then most importantly, you want to predict so that you can intervene. You want to know when things are changing so that you can take action. And what we've seen in the last year is this haves and have-nots in terms of not only who can predict successfully, right, but who can turn that prediction into action. All right, and what you're seeing from the smartest businesses is this recognition. There's a lot of stuff we do that doesn't actually help us in an emergency, right? And this is going to lead to a global change in how we strategize, and it's going to lead to the rise of the narrative forecast. And I think we already heard, Brian talk about this a little bit, right, when he said scenario-based forecasting, right? But what does the whole business do when these events happen? Right? What do we do when our in-person events are closed? What would we do with our life sciences organization now that people aren't getting the preventative treatment they need? Right? But that's all kind of standard 2021 prediction stuff. So I want to jump into the more spicy impacts here. Mm-hmm. Number one, more collaboration. right? We just saw a $27 billion acquisition of Slack, right? The collaboration software. That's not a typo, right? And we're going to see more collaboration, not just within our businesses, but 2020 was a big show of vulnerability and need for action for all of us. You're going to see stronger relationships between business partners and stronger relationships with customers. The second thing, if you need to intervene, you need to be able to act quickly, which means you need to empower your team and your employees. And when you have people empowered to do their best work and to lead, that's when you really start to take advantage of your diversity. So we're going to see more diversity in thought, more diversity in background, and more diversity in experience. And you're going to see that at the strategic and leadership levels of organizations. The third thing, you're going to see enterprise software customers demand the breakdown of silos. If I have a best-in-breed sales planning and best-in-breed supply chain, I need to run scenarios through both of them. This is not data import. This is working together, and people are going to stand up and demand it, right? And the whole point of all these processes is to spur action. And I'll take 15 seconds to do my one other, my little call to action, which is that in 2020, as part of a worldwide response to take care and do the best we can through this pandemic, we've seen a big drop in your preventative health activities. So, protect yourself, protect your communities, do what you can, and also make sure you're finding a way to safely get the preventative care you need to stay healthy and happy into 2021.
Thank you, JS. Question for you. You mentioned spicy predictions after you mentioned Chobani. And I was wondering if Chobani is the yogurt company you were talking about. Could you just take 30 seconds and elaborate on it? You dropped it on us, and I'm saying, I thought maybe it was a financial process. I had missed the acronym. So
no. Chobani, the yogurt company, right, started with a small business loan that was used to acquire a asset, in this case, a factory for production of consumer packaged goods, right? And there's twofold. One, they were able to, start in less debt. And then number two, leverage that increased control over the organization, right? To, provide better work experience, better customer experience, because they weren't running up against debt, right? A small business loan is generally not to buy a factory, but because there was a depressed asset, that opportunity was seized.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to elaborate. I was thinking, what does C stand for? What does H stand for? What does O stand for? So I
try to keep my acronyms to 2 letters.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's move on to Haresh Chayo. Welcome, Haresh. And we're ready for your predictions. You're up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Bonnie. And there's an advantage of going later in the series because you get to elaborate on some of the predictions that are already made. So some of the predictions that I have are quite similar to what you heard before, but I'm going to give it a slightly different flavor. So working habits will change. We heard that again and again. But what does that do to the way we used to live, we used to work? And one of the things that is going to happen is the technology to support it is going to evolve very drastically. You see the valuation of companies like Zoom. It's valued several $1 billion. Last I heard was like a couple of tens of $1 billion. It's going to continue that path. You'll also see the brick and mortar companies that allow people to come together change the way they attract workforce. They can't just ask people to come to office and do something because now people can do it from where they are, which means they have to incentivize people to come to the office with innovative ways, which could mean, hey, I'll give you a different environment without kids roaming around where you can, work a little differently, or maybe even over a glass of wine so that you stimulate your thought process even further. So point being that these brick and mortar offices are going to have to incentivize people to come back to work. And the third piece in this, working differently mode is going to be, as said before, workflows, notifications, and artificial intelligence. These things are going to take a lot more importance in people's lives. We already get notifications from our private assets, such as you mentioned about Alexa and things like that. But now people are going to have to figure out how to differentiate and prioritize notifications coming from work, from personal life, from sales companies, and so on and so forth. So just another dose of things that we need to worry about as we change the way we work. The second prediction is going to be around, as Birgit said, everything is going to be available as a service. And I think that is going to be true. But let's take a slightly different angle on this. What are finance organizations going to have to worry about? What treasurers will have to worry about? Payment systems. As these subscriptions become more and more real, the automated payment systems are going to be even more important, which means somebody subscribes to a service, automatically the payment information has to be available. It has to start to kick in as the payment becomes due, which means the payment systems have to work. What if they don't work? And let's say, what if the credit card does not have the expiration date on it? Okay, that has an impact on Treasury, because the forecast that was available, which the treasurer was feeling very happy about, that they are going to predict well, now it's not going to be true. What if the customer runs out of credit? The automated subscription fails because the customer cannot make payments. So the way the treasurers used to see their forecast in the older world has to transform into this new way. And I think they're going to rely more on the customer credit information, which is not going to be available only from the credit bureaus, but things like Facebook, things like Twitter. Is the customer saying anything on these different sources about how well they're situated in their whichever space they operate in? That is going to feed a data point. Now that creates additional risks in the system, because now you have concerns around privacy, fraud. You have concerns around somebody taking your credit limit and using it somewhere else, and competition. So when you talk about this credit, what about somebody else offering extra credit and snatching the customer away? So there's all kinds of new things that are going to come up as things move towards more subscription-based model. The third prediction is cloud is old. I mean, everybody's harping on cloud, but cloud came out, in 10 years ago, in 2010 or something? Well, it's going to be the specialty cloud. As treasurers and finance organizations are going to worry about, how do I protect my data, the integrity of data from hackers, from these bad elements, they're going to have to define the boundaries around the cloud in which they operate, and which is why companies are going to rely on specialty clouds. You can see some companies are already starting to talk about it. One of the labels I heard in the industry is industry cloud, and that is going to have defined boundaries around the cloud space that they offer. So that's going to become more real in the future. And a little funny one, I think as people work remotely more and more, they're going to have to find ways to express themselves more. And my sense is that emojis and memes are going to become integral part of our working habits, which means if there's a notification, probably our manager will send it with a smile or a glass of wine, sort of shaking on that meme, just to make you happy that, hey, you did a good job. So I guess some of the things that we just treat in personal life are going to make its way into our work life as well. And that's my prediction.
Thank you very much. Very, very, very interesting. You scared me a little about the access to personal information and credit coming over with looking at intention and with clues we put out on social media. I think everybody got a little bit scared with that one. As far as expressing yourself, very interesting, Haresh. I recently read that, and Birgit and Larissa, you're up next. Birgit and Larissa and Molly might identify with this. I don't. A lot of business women who were used to going to the office with their office uniform, meaning maybe a high-end business suit, whether it's skirt suit, a dress suit, a pantsuit, purse, fancy shoes. They're dumping all of that. They're selling all of that on the secondhand market, and they're buying comfortable things with stretch waistbands. And all I have to say to them is 2 black dresses, keep your hair color good, couple of pairs of earrings, sit down in front of Zoom, and you're just fine. And Haresh, as far as personal goes, pick your background, right? Whether it's virtual, whether it's real, decide who you want to be. I tell people, represent your own brand or your persona when you appear visually on social today in video conferencing. Thank you very much. Larissa, I am summoning you, Larissa Melnichek at FBA Trends. I'm putting you on speaker view. Larissa, let's hear your predictions. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Bonnie, and so happy to see everyone here. What a great panel and wonderful predictions, very interesting ones. Of course, mine, there will be around financial planning and analysis for FP&A. So I join you here today from the UK, from outside of the US. But what I want to say that the trends for FP&A, they're really global. There are a lot of them, but I've chosen only three today. So the first one, I call this scenario planning in this incredible environment of high uncertainty. So not scenario planning, scenario management. I really like the interview with a CFO from Coca-Cola company last week when he said it's not about scenario planning anymore, it's about scenario management. So what does it mean for us in FP&A? This incredible cone of uncertainty, which is our environment, it just changed everything in traditional management accounting ways. It changed everything in the way how we plan, forecast, how we even analyze. So it's all about scenario management when we place scenarios at different levels of organization, top down, bottom up, including our strategic level and operational level. I would like to stress the importance of strategic planning process. So we will see more and more FP&As to be part of this, you see. So they will help to close the gap between strategy and execution. So this is the first one, scenario management in the high uncertain situation. The next one is very interesting. So I already mentioned to you that all the traditional methods of management accounting, they're changing at the moment. So we are talking about so-called extended planning and analysis. What it means that FP&A is going just outside of finance area. We've been observing this for some time now, at least for the last 3-4 years. We saw how FP&As, they play a role in operational planning and strategic planning. But at the moment, the environment where we live, it's this incredible trend will be accelerated. So what it means that in FP&A Trends Group, we call this integrated planning and analysis. So it means that in FP&A, we really will be playing a role in every level of the organization. And the next one, it's about technology, human intelligence, and also about the process as well. So quite a few of you mentioned here today the role of artificial intelligence, in particular in planning. We started this project around 2.5 years ago to look at particular case studies for FP&A, how they use artificial intelligence, machine learning. And you know what, it's definitely happening right now. It's not so widespread, but it's happening. But what I would like to say, it's about winning formula. This is artificial intelligence plus human intelligence plus process. So only combination of all of those three, they will create great success for FP&As, for decision support, for decision making in this new normal. And of course, FP&A has a huge role to play there. So as I said, there are a lot of interesting trends, and this is such a fantastic time to be in financial planning and analysis at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Larissa. Very interesting. Thinking of STEM education, women in tech. Somebody told me that women in tech, and I'm using that in a broad term, in Europe is still very, very much depressed. They're having trouble getting women in the tech field, and yet I see women who are so interesting and so invested in, and there's a financial term for you, and so savvy about technology here in our shows, and I'm wondering why. So maybe that's part of the push, a trend of getting more young girls involved in what we all know is wonderful brain food. I'll call it that. Kevin Mccollum, you're up next. Kevin is going to be, I'm not sure he's going to show up, but he's here with his SAP logo and he's got his name. And Kevin, you're up next. So we're ready for your predictions. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Bonnie. And everybody can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. So apologies that I'm not there with you in pixelated form, but I wasn't feeling well today, and it's not a pretty picture, but I couldn't miss this. So this is a great capstone for the year. So I'm going to give a sort of a stream of consciousness prediction, which contains a few predictions in it. And far be it from me to have the hubris to give advice to CFOs, but I'm going to give a little advice to the to CFOs, but the good ones already, I think, know the advice that I'm going to give here. Was having a conversation with my neighbor, socially distanced, of course, and he's a banker, and he said, we're just absolutely crushing it this year. Capital is so cheap, and we're making loans left and right. But I'm not sure that's what the future holds post-pandemic for the financial services industry, and I'm not going to don't want to be a downer here. I think they're just going to share the wealth a little bit. And what I'm talking about is, I believe that CFOs are going to have a chance to become bankers, if you will. I come from an industry that pioneered concepts around captive finance. And think about it. Think about the amount of capital that tech companies have laying around today. Think about, you probably all got some type of a credit card that's branded by a company, competed with by a credit card that's branded by an industry like the such and such retail credit card, whatnot. I think that companies are going to start to see the advantages of having a captive finance operation. And who knows, maybe we start seeing the Netflix of the world, or the leasing equipment to make their viewing experience that much better. Maybe that one's far-fetched, but I can see the Samsungs of the world start to lease high-end equipment and create massive capital flows in the market. And their CFOs are going to have to come to grips with that. There's all types of challenge. I think there's all types of opportunities for CFOs to expand their scope. I look at SAP's CFO, and he owns corporate security. He owns compliance. So he's already got a huge scope. But I think the future is bright for bright, ambitious, hardworking CFOs. And I think just becoming retail bankers is just one opportunity to grow their business in a non-traditional way. So that's my prediction for the year. And behind that, there are all types of tech enablers. I think blockchain is going to start to take off in the next years, because I'm already seeing IoT, Internet of Things applications for blockchain. Imagine if there was a secure way for my robots at one factory to talk to my robots at another factory and optimize the manufacturing process or the warehousing process simply by sharing best practices through a secure exchange medium like a blockchain. So there are so many opportunities, technology enabled opportunities, and I think the entry of large tech industry companies into captive finance is a logical next step. So I'll leave it there.
Kevin Mccollum, thank you, and we wish you to feel better. And thank you very much. Very interesting. Robots in one factory talking to robots in another. Wow. Is that galactic communication, or is that just the collaboration we were talking about? Somebody mentioned it's not technology, it's the will to talk to each other and get things done and get rid of get rid of robot silos. I like that. Robot parties and we could just do a whole movie on that, but maybe they already did. Pras Chatterjee, you are rounding out our wonderful panel here. Pras, also one of the sponsors of our series, Financial Excellence with Game Changers. Pras, we can give you 4 minutes, and then we're going to quickly go around the table and have everybody tell me your favorite holiday drink. Yes, we will have time. Pras, you're up. Welcome.
Great. Thanks so much, Bonnie, for having me. And I heard some great predictions today, but it tells you where I am right now, in the sense that the one Haresh mentioned about getting people to the office with wine, that still resonates with me. And it's still just before lunch right now. So again, a lot of where my head is. So I think let's get the cliches out of the way. I mean, I think we hear a lot, as we head into the new year, new me. I think for those of us in finance, it's new year, new we. That's where we're going. So some of the predictions, I think, are that, we're going to take the lessons we've learned from 2020 and be a lot better in 2021. We're going to be agile as a finance department. I think, Bonnie, I've spent a lot of my time talking about the fact that I spent 10 years in finance, And I probably despised every minute of it. And I despised it because I look back at the way I did things and it was insane. And I saw the way new and best-in-class organizations were working in 2020, and it was so much better. I remember the way I used to do planning. It was such a scheduled manner. On the fourth day of the month, I do a prediction, a forecast against X that came in through a closed process that Molly described, and that all has to change. Best-in-class organizations in 2020 worked so much better because they were agile and they were predicting scenarios. Because guess what? Things happened in 2020 that were out of our control. And we now know that in 2021, things are going to continue to happen that are out of our control as well. It might not be like 2020, but it's going to be different. And it shows that finance and FP&A, especially best-in-class FP&A, has the potential to actually make a difference by working in a relevant manner. They are able to make a prediction, make a forecast in the middle of the month, on the 27th day of the month, and they're able to look forward and not versus looking back. So those are some of the things. The other part I think it's going to change is FP&A is finally going to be relevant and sexy. And what I mean by that is there's an experience I actually had with Larissa in New York 2 years ago. Larissa and I were at a meeting of all these FP&A constituents. And one of the things that they brought up was that they were having a really hard time attracting talent to come into FP&A. They were using terms like ghosting, where they'd hire people and top talent from some of the top universities in the New York area wouldn't even show up. And I was stunned at this because, I started my career in FP&A, and what they mentioned was that, a lot of this talent would come in, or they'd learn about their job, how it was effectively reporting or doing variance analysis and just stating the obvious over and over again. And they weren't interested in that. And to keep young people and top talent interested, you've got to change the way you're doing things. And I think 2020 has been that catalyst for FP&A to change things to be a lot more relevant, because guess what? CFOs, CEOs have come to FP&A and have asked them to predict scenarios and do all those things I mentioned before, all the agile planning and scenario planning. So with that in mind, I think FP&A is going to evolve. It's going to be a lot more strategic and forward thinking, and that's going to bring in some of the best talent and top talent. And it's going to be really exciting to hear about all the technology that everybody here has brought together today, about the RPA, about the faster close process, about the quicker variance analysis, about blockchain and every things talking to each other. And I think FP&A is going to be the linchpin of bringing all this in and making those predictions. So that's where I think it's going to be. I think that FP&A is finally going to be a lot more relevant than it was before.
Thank you, Pras. Thank you, everyone. What impressed me, Birgit and Pras, about these wonderful people who've all been panelists on your shows during 2020 is that you all listened to each other right here, live, streaming on Facebook, and we're broadcasting on Voice America Business. You all listened to each other, and you commented back and forth about what you heard. So you are collaborating, and you are the new culture, Pras, of not just I and me and my company, but we and us, and the word we started out with, collaboration. Now we're going to collaborate. I'm going to give you each a chance. I'm just going to go across the screen in the order in which I see. I've got 2 minutes left to close. What's your favorite holiday drink? What's in the still or the bathtub or the garage sink? What are you brewing? What are you buying? What's on ice? What are you going to be mixing? Rob Kugel, go. Just a quick drink.
Cup of kindness with a Veuve Clicquot chaser.
Thank you very much, Molly Boyle. Unmute. There you go.
Yep. I'm big on appearance, so I'm going to go with any kind of bubbly or spritzer with some cranberries and a sprig of rosemary.
Oh, I love that. Daniel Satani, what are you drinking?
So we've got something we've branded as Pandemic Punch, which is tequila, lime juice, and pomegranate juice.
Drink up. Skull. Brian Kalish.
Well, I've got two because of what was just said. So if you're looking for tequila, the tequila that you want to look for, it's an ad, it's a client of mine, Clase Azul Ultra. You will not be disappointed. And then my sipper would be bourbon, Michener's Celebration Sour Mash. And just to close, I think what everyone's been talking about, it's all about speed to insight at the speed of thought. So tremendous panel today, everyone.
Thank you. Pras Chatterjee, what are you drinking?
I'm trying to decide between an Amarone or Barolo. I'll leave it at that.
Wonderful. J.S. Eric.
I'm loving a cold morning and hot coffee outside.
All right. Haresh Chaya.
A nice bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon from California would be great.
Très bien. Larissa Melnichak, what are you drinking?
Here in the UK, in Europe, it's all about Glintwein or malt wine. So it's everywhere, and we are back to meeting each other, with the distance. And This is
Thank
about
you.
this now.
Birgit Starmans.
I think everybody's already used mine because normally I'm a champagne girl. And, the mulled wine at the Christmas markets in Germany, even though I'm staying in Palo Alto. And there's some kind of pseudo Christmas markets that go on here, but obviously not this year. So I'm just going to have to do them at home.
You are. Kevin Mccollum, what are you drinking when you feel better?
I'm going to take Birgit's idea to the next level. We're making our first Feuerzangenbowle, and that is a German mulled wine with a burnt caramelized top on it, and we are looking forward to it. It's called Burnt Punch.
Talk about spicy and sexy. I want to thank you all so much for being here with me. Bonnie D. Graham signing off. Thank you to my co-producer, Ryan Treasure, VP of Everything at World Talk Radio. Thank you. Put your hands together for Aaron Keller, our engineer at World Talk Radio, engineer with the nerves of steel. He calls himself my sidekick. Here's my call to action. Remember, if somebody tells you the future is already here, I want you all to wag your finger and say, no, no, no. That was yesterday's future. Today's future didn't happen yet. And I want you to all be part of making it a much better one in 2021. So be safe, be smart, be savvy, and I'll just say what's on my mind. Wear a mask and stay sane. Happy holidays all. Bye-bye. Everybody wave.
Thank you for joining us for Technology Revolution, the future of now. Mark your calendar to join host Bonnie D. Graham every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Voice America Business Channel to hear how technology is impacting your future now.